It's time for some collective wisdom, a podcast advancing the cannabis revolution, one conversation at a time. We all benefit from sharing knowledge and experiences. So if you want to learn about the business of cannabis from those in the trenches, you've come to the right place. Here's your host, Lisa Tollner, co-founder of SensiChew.
Welcome. Our conversation today is with Socrates Rosenfeld. Socrates is the co-founder and CEO of Jane Technologies. After leaving active duty in 2011 as a U.S. Army veteran and Apache helicopter commander, Socrates turned to cannabis to help him reacclimate to civilian life. Because cannabis wasn't legal at the time in Massachusetts, where he lived, he was forced to rely on the black market, and he couldn't be sure about the quality of the cannabis he was buying. That frustration of the experience, coupled with the lack of access to safe cannabis for he and his fellow vets, led him to create Jane Technologies along with his brother Abraham. Jane launched in 2017 to provide e-commerce solutions for legal cannabis retailers. A big part of the platform is for consumers easily research, locate, and purchase cannabis products online. Jane currently partners with over 1,300 dispensaries in 28 states. Previously, Socrates was an associate at McKinsey & Company, and he graduated from the U.S. Military Academy and earned an MBA in entrepreneurship from MIT. Socrates Rosenfeld, welcome to Collective Wisdom.
Thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
Well, let's dive right in. There is an incredible amount of stress and anguish that we are all experiencing as a result of COVID-19, and the cannabis industry is having to shift and pivot and adjust to these rapidly coming changes. Please tell us how Jane Technologies and your company helps out.
Great question, and happy to address that. And I think before we talk specifically about Jane, I just want to take a moment to bring light to how far we have come as a cannabis industry, at least here in the U.S., where 4 years ago, it was very difficult for even ancillary software company like ourselves to even get a checking account at a local bank. And here we are 4 years later in a time of uncertainty and crisis, and you have state governments across the country deeming cannabis businesses as essential. And I think that's a testament to how far we've come and how we continue to do the right things as a whole. And particularly how we're seeing this recent pandemic really disrupt every retail vertical, but particularly how it's disrupting the cannabis industry is everything now is obviously being driven more and more online. And so we had a call a few weeks ago when the pandemic was just starting to ramp up and self-quarantining was imminent. We got a call from one of the largest dispensaries in the country on the weekend. They said, hey, by Monday morning, we're going to need to implement curbside pickup because this is the way we're going to protect our employees and our customers while also allowing to have our doors open. And within a short order, 24 hours, we had curbside pickup available. So where you used to wait in line at a dispensary where there was probably a large component of an in-person consultation, now ordering from a dispensary is really shopping on DoorDash or one of those order ahead platforms, whereby now you can place your order all while being in your house, either for curbside pickup or delivery, reserve a time and get notified with real-time updates, all the while staying safe from your own house and then showing up when appropriate. So that's how we're helping the industry. We're really proud of being able to enable these, in my opinion, brave small businesses who are keeping their doors open to provide the medicine that so many of their local communities need.
And, you know, it's interesting because this is forcing the industry to mature and adopt technology at a much faster pace than it was on course to do on its own. And it always struck me that it felt very old school, the way dispensaries were being run up till now. And this crisis, although it's been desperate, out of this desperation comes inspiration. And this is enabling so many to adopt technology for the betterment of the community.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more. I think we need to be doing everything we can as an industry because we know how important it is to provide access to a product that helps the well-being of so many people.
So thank you for that summary and that overview. Now, specifically with Jane, even before the crisis, clearly there was an element of how dispensaries can better serve their customers. through this technology. It's now more needed than ever. But did you always have this vision? Was this always part of your game plan to bring technology and modernize the cannabis space?
It was our vision to really make shopping for cannabis as simple and as straightforward as shopping online for just about everything else in this world. And so the answer to your question is yes. And we recognize that this idea was born from a problem that I was personally experiencing. I was a military veteran that got out of the service and found great peace in cannabis, and it really helped me out. And when I moved out here and became a medical patient in California in 2014, it was a real struggle for me to be able to find the products that work best for me, to be able to determine whether or not I was getting the right value, to be able to get recommended, suggested product by verified, validated consumers who are just like me. And if you think about pretty much how you shop online for just about everything else, any product that you buy on Amazon, any movie that you watch on Netflix, there is some curation taking place in the background that creates a very personal experience. And those are retail items and movies. And in my opinion, there's no better personal product or no better product that can customize to your own personal needs than cannabis. And only through technology can we use information to provide a really curated experience for the consumer. So that was one side of the marketplace. The other side was for really helping retailers be able to sell their products in a much more efficient, effective manner. For context, there's a smaller size dispensary here in Santa Cruz. On average, they were doing about 5 online orders a day. And then after the pandemic hit, obviously they went all online, and now they're doing over 200 online orders a day with a fraction of the staff. Customers are being able to order more products. They're creating a more personal experience. They're actually developing a more meaningful relationship with that customer because they understand what products they want to anticipate those customers' needs. So again, really for us, we see just the advancement or the quote unquote modernization of this industry. Our first mission is to get it on par with every other industry. Our mission after that is to make sure that cannabis is the leading industry in terms of providing the most advanced retail technology out there, and we hope to be a large part of that.
What has been the biggest problem for dispensary owners to take the plunge into using technologies to better operate their companies from your view? I mean, now they're somewhat forced to. You don't offer curbside and delivery service, you can't function.
Right.
And some of them may still go kicking and screaming and hesitant to adopt. But what do you think has been their biggest reason for that? I
think really there hasn't been. And of course, this is dependent upon each local state geography because some states are a lot different. But I really think there hasn't been a real need on the dispensary side to bring everyone online until obviously this happened. I'm referring to the coronavirus.
Right.
The industry has been making a lot of money. It's been quote unquote successful. So I think you have a lot of businesses who are okay keeping the status quo and not disrupting that. And that's completely understandable. But when something like this takes place and they had to rapidly adjust and amend their practices, I'm wondering, what will this industry look like after the pandemic? Will customers be okay waiting in line again? Will dispensaries staff be okay with having jammed waiting rooms on a Friday afternoon or long lines that wrap around the store? Because there's really none of that taking place right now because everything's being more and more driven online. So I think what we'll see coming out of this is kind of the best of both worlds, where as a retailer, you can create in a really efficient, streamlined, data-driven operation to accommodate the majority of your consumers and then retain the additional capacity created by online technologies to keep your in-store consultative process so that the new customers that need to be able to consult with a bud tender and ask the in-person questions can still do so. So I'm excited. Obviously, this is a really trying time for everyone, but I'm optimistic that coming out of this, we're going to see a new age of retail, and that's the merge of these wonderful offline and online worlds coming together and really creating a special omni-channel experience for the consumer.
How easy or complex is it for a retail operator to integrate Jane?
It's extremely easy. We have a few utility software patents that allow us to automate e-commerce simply by conducting integration into the inventory management system or their point of sale system. So essentially, it's completely turnkey and seamless for our dispensary partners. They don't ever have to maintain any menu item ever again. And I can't overemphasize how important this is particularly when now you're experiencing hundreds, if not thousands of online orders coming into dispensaries every single day. Imagine being a small business as a dispensary and having to hire headcount just to manually reconcile what's on your showroom floor and what's being represented online. We completely remove that variable altogether so that it's really seamless and turnkey. And we feel like we have a sustainable long-term solution upon which retailers can build large operations and, quite frankly, more efficient operations, literally with a click of the button.
Now, there's a couple of other technology plays that, in my mind, seem to overlap with Jane in some respect. Weed Maps, for example, with their online menu and map. Who are your top competitors, and what are the advantages that Jane has over them?
We don't really focus on the competitors out there. Most of them we consider indirect competitors. You mentioned Weed Maps, a fantastic company that opened the doors for online technologies in the space. But really, all software companies are trying to figure out their place. And so for us at Jane, we are aware of the competitive landscape. We really try to listen to what we believe is the most important, and that is to the customer, that is to the retail staff, that is to the brands, and we build for that. And where that takes us, we'll find out. But really, that's where our focus is.
Now, in addition to helping and connecting to the POS system in retail, what other sort of key feature sets do you think are really important?
I think first and foremost, you have to have full automation. And what I mean by that is every single item in inventory must be represented without any manual input whatsoever for your digital menu. So as a dispensary, that needs to be paramount. Some companies say they do real-time integration. Essentially, all they're really doing is scraping information. We not only pull that integration through our integration services, but we also standardize the taxonomy of those items. So really, in pragmatic terms, what that means is as a dispensary, not only are you looking for full automation of your menu, but you need to be able to populate your menu with the latest content directly from those brands. And so that's what we provide for our dispensaries. We have over 250,000 SKUs in our cannabis catalog, which is the largest to our knowledge in the world, so that if you're a dispensary and you have a new product and you scan that into your point of sale system, that will automatically update onto your menu. Outside of that real-time integration and automated content population, I think you're really going to need to find a way to continue to understand your customers, continue to understand what products your customers want, why they buy them, how they bundle them. And so if there are dispensaries out there that are operating without any real information or understanding of how their analytics is performing at their specific store, and quite frankly, how that pertains to the larger, broader marketplace, I think they're operating at a disadvantage. So those are really the two big ones that we at least solve here at Jane, and I think they're paramount when understanding or trying to set up your dispensary operation with the latest and greatest technology.
I'd like to hear some of your predictions for the future with the virus and this forced upon change, which is in many ways a good thing because it's advancing the industry more rapidly than it may have on its own. As you mentioned, a lot of complacency. But now it's moving in this really new and accelerated direction that is going to, I believe, as you do, very beneficial. But what other impact do you think that this will have on the future of retail and cannabis and even non-cannabis?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. If we just take a moment and kind of understand what's taking place today. As a consumer, let's say I'm here in Santa Cruz, California. I can visit iHeartJane.com. I can search for the keyword sleep. I can search for stuff like gluten-free. I could search for my favorite brand, my favorite product, my favorite individual SKU, my category, whatever that is. I can also, when finding my product, can find, if I care about price, I can find the best value. I can get recommendations from other people who have shopped and purchased that product, and then ultimately make that purchase at a local small business to me. And if you think about how we order everything else, retail, not restaurants, because you can't ship a spaghetti bolognese in the mail. But in retail, we have that exact same experience on Amazon. When we want to buy a product, we search for it. It's a wonderful experience. I can compare by price. I can see what's the most popular. I can see what other people like me have to say about this individual product. But the one thing that continues to hang me up when I shop on Amazon is that every time I buy something, I'm wondering, is that product sitting somewhere at a real brick and mortar business, somewhere local to me or as local to me as possible. And I think what we're uncovering here in the cannabis industry is the new age of retail, whereby the consumer is provided that purchasing power, that curation, that convenience, as one would find on Amazon. Except unlike Amazon, where that product is being sourced at a large distribution warehouse 2,000 miles away to get on an airplane, to get to the post office, to get delivered to you 2 days at best. Here, what we're showing and proving is that we can actually bring and push value back into the local communities. We can do so where it's a win-win-win scenario. It's a win for local businesses. It's a win for the consumer. It's a win for Jane. And I think if we can prove that model out here in cannabis, this industry has been founded upon community, right? Taking care of each other. If we can prove that this is a new age where technology companies aren't directly competing against offline businesses, but instead working in unison to create value for the consumer, I think we're onto something, and I'm really excited for it. And, it's times like these, as you identified, where there's a lot of desperation, but through that, I think there is inspiration. And certainly I speak on behalf of the Jane team, where we feel very inspired to continue to move the needle and help this industry as much as we possibly can.
Well, it's so interesting that you say about the think local side of it, because that's one thing that I hear often from small business with respect to Amazon is that, it's great. We're all somewhat addicted to the convenience factor and the fact that you can search the globe and for what you want. Although your small businesses, you talk to any small retailer, Amazon is their nemesis.
Right.
And so this is really a unique proposition in that you're bringing all the technology to bear that in terms of being able to aggregate people's selection so they can find what they want, but support the local business. So that needs to happen. Otherwise, we're going to lose local retail in the end.
Yep, I couldn't agree with you more.
Well, I know you may have a special announcement to share with us. Fill us in on what's coming up at Jane.
We're very excited to have announced the joining of Walter Robb to our advisory board. Walter is not only a good friend of mine and a fine leader of character, but also the former co-CEO of Whole Foods. And so we are excited to bring Walter on for multiple reasons. First and foremost, as I mentioned, he is a true leader of character and has built, in my opinion, one of the most culturally strong businesses in Whole Foods that I have ever experienced. And that's important to us as we continue to grow Jane Technologies out. But I think past that, Walter was on the ground in building the organic food industry. 40 years ago, it looked a lot like the cannabis industry. It was a little fringe. It was counterculture. People didn't really understand it. And now you can't walk into a Safeway or, quite frankly, any grocery store without seeing organic as the priority product in the shopping experience. So not only are we excited to bring him on, but I'm going to speak on behalf of Walter. And I think he's humble enough and wise enough to realize that there is a future of retail out there. And he is one of the leading global experts in how to build offline retail and is very interested in getting a front row seat and learning how to merge these two worlds, as we had just discussed, between the offline world and online, whereby there isn't this direct competition and then there is this beautiful unison of these two worlds to create, again, what I believe to be the future of commerce. And that is the integration of this omni-channel software, but bringing value back down to the physical offline environment for small businesses. So bottom line, we're really excited to have Walter join us. We have other advisors on the team that are, quite frankly, as helpful as he is, but really, truly, his leadership, his understanding, his experience in growing with an industry is something that we value very much, and really grateful for him joining us on this journey.
Well, congratulations to you and Walter and the entire team for assembling a stellar group. Congratulations on that. Well, Socrates, it has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today. I really enjoyed our conversation. I think you covered some really important topics on interesting changes that are afoot for the cannabis space and for retail in general. And I think our listeners are really going to enjoy what you had to say. Thank you so much.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for tuning in. You can find Collective Wisdom on OC Talk Radio every Thursday at 3 p.m., and you can listen to Collective Wisdom wherever you get your podcast. This is your host, Lisa Tollner. Thank you for listening, and until next time, be well.
That's this week's episode of the Collective Wisdom Podcast. Join us each week for another episode on OC Talk Radio, streaming on Thursdays at 3 p.m., and you can download Collective Wisdom wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to visit cacollectivewisdom.com or email us at collectivewisdompodcast@gmail.com to join the conversation. Thank you for listening.